DeathsStalker here. So, the World Championship is over, and John Mir is a 2020 MotoGP World Champion, and it's well-deserved and well-earned. So the question is, what does it take to become a MotoGP World Champion? Well, I'll give you some of the things that really hasn't changed much over the years. Now, the first thing you have to have is, of course, the skill to ride a motorcycle fast. Very, very fast. Now, pretty much everybody in the MotoGP paddock has that. They wouldn't be there if they didn't. Some of them are better than others, but they are faster than, you know, your national champions. They are faster than people that ride in other classes and stuff. You know, like the old joke, the best of the best from Men in Black. Well, MotoGP riders, yeah, they pretty well are. Now, the next thing to be a world champion is you have to have the right bike. Now, you might think, well, that sort of makes sense, but the right bike isn't necessarily the same bike every year. Manufacturers, you know, are always upgrading and improving their race bikes. You look at the Honda MotoGP bike, and no question, many years it's been the right bike, but I can point to a couple seasons at least when it wasn't the right bike and it shouldn't have won the championship. But all the other things that make a world champion, one of them being like Marc Marquez, overcame that deficiency. A good example is the old 500 Grand Prix days when you had Freddie Spencer win the championship on the Honda, and then the next year Eddie Lawson won on the Yamaha because Yamaha made a better bike. Then the next year Honda made a better bike and Freddie Spencer won, and then Eddie Lawson won, and that's the best bike. Now the next one is kind of strange. Back in the Grand Prix days, having the right tires was an important thing. And it's weird, there's no stop sign here. Oh well. Now, in the old days, you had Dunlop and Michelin, Bridgestone making tires, and they used to make one-up tires, like Freddie Spencer, Eddie Lawson, Mick Doohan. They all used to get, here's a special tire just for you for this race, for this racetrack. But nowadays they're on spec tires, so everyone is racing on the same, right this year, Michelin tires. They're exactly the same. The tires, if you have a hard tire on your back of your bike, it's the exact same hard tire as everyone else has. Now, you'd sort of wonder about, well, why does that matter? Well, sometimes the bike you're riding just doesn't like that tire. A good example is Ducati. This season's the hard tire that Ducati, last season's tire that Ducati had. Everyone else was getting along with it, but Ducati couldn't even use it. The tire was fighting their bike every track, and it shows in qualifying, it shows in the races. It just, very seldomly were they able to get a setup that would actually let them fight for the win. So even though it's a spec tire, the tire has to work with the bike. Now, a lot of the manufacturers are working very hard to try to lessen that effect, but it still exists. Now the next thing that you need to have is actually a good team that you can actually put your trust in. And that's from your mechanics to your electronics technicians and the management of the team. There are teams out there that try to give their riders everything they can, try to be supportive, to help them to do what they can do to do best. And there's other teams that basically, you're the rider, we're paying you a lot of money, and don't come whining to us. And that's seriously in some of the racing teams. And there's teams that actually, you know, seriously try to negatively reinforce the riders, which actually, if you're having a couple bad races, they can actually make you go worse because they're telling you you're not working hard enough or trying hard enough, or the bike's fine, it's you. And that's been going on for years. I've read a lot of biographies of people racing in MotoGP and 500 Grand Prix where that's their experiences. And some of those same teams from the 80s and 90s are still in MotoGP. Now the next part is the part that comes from the rider themselves, and that is knowing what it takes to become a champion. Now it helps a lot if the riders, oh, that was a big hole, the riders coming to MotoGP have won a championship before. I noticed that riders who have done very well but never actually won a championship, even at a lower level, sometimes just seem, they're not quite, you can tell they're sort of missing something from their DNA, and that is to know what's needed to get the championship. Like the work you have to put in, the training, dealing with, you know, the mental game with different competitors, the media, etc. There's a lot of pressure on these racers right from the beginning. You basically get a bye the very first race, or the very first race weekend, and after that the sharks and the knives come out. So now that you have the will to win, or the will to get it done, the last thing is doing what you need to do to get it done. And that is, you know, being that cutthroat person who wants that win more than anybody on the planet. And a lot of racers, you look at any photograph of Mick Doohan, Kenny Roberts, even Barry Sheen and Valentino Rossi, when they're smiling for the camera, you look in their eyes, and it's the eyes of a cold-blooded killer, because they will do what it takes to win. You know, Marc Marquez's nickname now seems to be Mark the Merciless, because he's merciless with his opponents. Valentino Rossi, if he couldn't beat you on the track, he'd beat you in your own head to win the championships. And that's just what sort of happens. It's that little bit extra that you need to put you over the top. Now, you do not have to be the best in every single one of those categories to be a MotoGP champion. You can, you know, Marc Marquez has shown you can have a slightly slower motorcycle and still win. Valentino Rossi, when he switched from the Honda to the Yamaha was a horrible motorcycle, and he had no problem taking his back-to-back championships with that, and then turned the bike into a winning bike and won several more. Some riders were just so intimidating to their competition that no one wanted to be around them. Like Mick Doohan, nobody wanted to be near Mick, because he was, as far as he was concerned, you were on his track. It's funny when you see an interview with Mick Doohan and he's smiling and talking friendly to the cameras, and it's like, yeah, go look at some of the interviews from him back when he was racing. But that's a different mentality for a world champion racer. You can see it just the same in Formula One. You know, the guys who've won multiple world championships in Formula One, they know exactly what needs to be done. They switch from one team to the next, and they keep on winning because, you know, they know how to fill in all the steps to get it done. So there you go. That's my thoughts on what it takes. If you agree or disagree, put it in the comments. I'd like to hear your thoughts. DeathsStalker